Hey everyone, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to make lo-fi, warehouse, hard rave techno. As usual, you can get the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video is available right at the top of the description, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there, because it's already available, and yeah, let's get started. Alright, so we're at 137 BPM, pretty standard BPM with this style. Usually you would maybe want between like 135 and 145, I would say, are the BPMs that I found from other producers in the style. The first sound that we have here is this 90s chord stab, which sounds like this. So yeah, this is that stab you've heard in a ton of these tracks, you know, from like, I know Tommy Holohan uses this a ton, a bunch of people use this. It's this famous sample, and all it's doing is just playing two notes. It's just... Then it goes burn out. So you can see, yeah, we just have all of these are like -1, and then this one is at 0. So then we do that inside of the little audio there. And then in terms of the actual processing on this sound, it's really simple as well. You can see we just have a bit of reverb, a bit of drum bus, which does go a long way to really make this like fat. Like if I turn the drum bus off, it's a bit thin without it. And you really want this to sound like full and big like this. And then finally we just have a high pass filter. So yeah, again, two notes, really simple processing. This one's all about just how it's a really good sound, and that just sounds really nice in the mix of the track. And we're just trying to, you know, make that work as best as possible. And this is really what you want to aim for, especially with this style. It's like, it's not about knowing how to put, you know, 50 effects on a sound and do a bunch of stuff to it to make it sound cool. It's like, it's about just picking sounds that are really good together and that just work with minimal processing like this. And yeah, then we have the lead. So the notes here, there's actually only like 3 notes here you can see, because we're doing E, D sharp, and then A sharp. But then these extra notes up top here. So those are just octaves of the D sharp and the A sharp. So what's happening here is it's kind of like this D sharp minor thing where we're doing like those are just D sharp and then the 5th, which would be A sharp in that key. But then we go up to this E, which kind of breaks it up. So yeah, just like... You can hear that, like, it's a super... This is how you get that sort of, like, evil-sounding atmosphere with the MIDI. It's really simple. It's just kind of, like, sort of breaking minor keys, if that makes any sense. Again, like, we're starting with very straightforward D-sharp minor notes with root note and the 5th. But then as soon as you go up to that E, it kind of, like I said, sort of breaks it musically, because all of a sudden, you're not in that same key. And yeah, it's just one note there. And then once you bounce up to those higher notes as well, that really helps too, because then you're getting that like... And yeah, those kind of scales are really popular in these more like, you know, hard warehouse techno style of tracks. Like just getting that more like quote unquote evil sound out of it. That is how you do it. Now for the sound, this one's made with wavetables. So really what this is it's just a pretty simple unison saw wave pluck. You can see we just have 2 saw waves. They're super detuned. You can see, yeah, pretty strong amount of detune there. Which is typically what you want, like, because with this style of a lead, you know, it's really simple notes, but then the actual like quality of the sound, and not just quality in terms of good or bad, but quality in terms of texture, is gonna make a big difference. So having this like just lots of detune here actually does sound pretty good with this one, I feel like, and it makes it sound more uneasy as well, which can really help with that like dark, evil sort of feeling. You can see I've got the low pass there. We have this envelope on the low pass, which is also on the amplitude. And then I just have this unison. So you can see we have the unison all the way up. So again, just like super detuned, super... Like it's almost like a hardstyle lead or something like that. It's really like the level of detuning that you want here. Then we just have some chorus. You can see with this one, I've got the feedback up quite a bit. So here's without this chorus. So you can hear that feedback kind of like smears the sound a little bit, and it really helps to wash it out a bit more and make it feel more like dark like that. And then we just have a bit of reverb. You can see, yeah, it's pretty long because, you know, this one, there's a lot of space between the little passages of notes, so we're just sort of letting it breathe there. And then we have a drum bus, which is just kind of fattening it up, you know, making it hit even more. Here's without that. And then with it, this really helps to give it that, like, attack, you know, because the thing is, this needs to really be punchy. Like, it needs to really be, like almost as punchy as a percussive element, honestly, in the mix, if you can get it there. And this drum bus really helps for that, because that transient knob just makes it hit so much harder. And then finally, we just have a high-pass filter, which you can see, I'm not high-passing it too much. Like, we're still letting a lot of the low end come through. That's the thing. A lot of people think, you know, because it's a lead, you just want to high-pass it like there. Or even there. But the problem with that is that you're getting rid of a lot of stuff that is actually pretty important, like in the low mid-range and even into the low end. So you really just want to cut out like below 100. And even there, like, we're still kind of letting it bleed into there a little. But that's really all you need. Otherwise, you're going to start taking away parts of the sound that are actually really important. But yeah, that is the lead. So then the next thing that we have down here would be these vocals, which sound like this. So you can hear it's just two like shout samples like this. And then that wah. And yeah, I just have those two in there in a group. You can see it's kind of like about where they're hitting in the mix. You know, we get like the stab and then the shout. And then another stab and then another shout. It's like we're doing call and response between the stabs and the vocals. You know, that's a whole loop in its own that you're hearing, and a groove that's happening underneath all this other stuff that you're hearing in the track. So yeah, like, you know, it's not just about like these elements in particular, but about where they're fitting in with the other elements in the track. And then of course, you know, like maybe in the intro you would have like, you know, then you would have a part in the track where it is just focusing on these. But yeah, and then with those, we just have a few effects on the group. So the first thing is just this eighth note echo. Yeah, you can hear that, just gives it like a kind of coming out of the sound. The thing that actually helps for is it does kind of create that more like old school sort of atmosphere. Versus like if I use like a bunch of reverb here, I feel like with the vocal samples, you really want it to sound like dubby like that, the way you get when you use an echo. And then I just have some drum bus, which is fattening these a bit and, you know, really making them like full. And also evening them out texturally, you know, it's kind of making them sound like they're coming from the same place. And then finally we just have a high pass filter. And this one you can see I'm cutting at about there. You know, with vocals you actually can cut out a bit of low end and still have room. And yeah, that's it for the vocals. And again, these are like super minimal processing. So it goes back to what I was saying with the stabs. It's like, you know, we're just putting together good sounds that sound nice already. And already, like, we're choosing them not because we want to change them and work with them, but because they just sound good and we want to put them in the track as they are. And that's what you want to aim for, rather than, you know, getting sounds where you got to use like 20 layers of effects just to make it sound cool. And yeah, then the next thing here is the rumble kick, which is 2 layers. It is our kick. You can see, just like a punchy 909 kick, and then the rumble, which is on its own track. And so the way that I've made the rumble here is it's actually the same thing as the kick. Like if you look at this, or if I turn off this processing, same deal. It's just the kick, and then it's playing straight quarter notes the same way the kick is, but then I'm processing it to create the rumble. So I'll turn off everything. So we start with this reverb. So typically with these style of tracks, like these style of kicks, like you hear in these tracks, like in Tommy Holohan's tracks, Grab's tracks, you know, a bunch of people like this, JKS, Maul, all of those different people. A lot of times I've noticed that they're using reverb rumbles. You get a little bit of a different feel with the reverb rumble. You know, a lot of times, like in more main room styles of techno, you would use like a delay rumble, or the rumble would just be the kick playing 16th notes or even 8th notes or something like that. But with this style, the reverb rumble really gives it a more like sort of warehouse feel for whatever reason. So yeah, we've got a reverb, and then we're distorting it. Which you can hear does two things. One, it converts it to mono because this amp is in mono. I definitely think amp is the best way to do this distortion as well. But also what's happening, as you can hear, it brings out the low end in the reverb. Like, the high end and mid range gets all crunchy, but we have that like fat low end to it now. So then what you do after that is you just low pass it. And then we have just the rumble, and then all there is on the end of that is I just have a compressor which side chains it to the main kick, and there we go. That's how you do it. And then on the group of those, all we need to really have is just something to sort of glue them together. You know, you want to do something to kind of put these in the same place and like treat it as one kick. Like the kick and the bass in this style of track are really one thing that you want to process as one. So here's without the drum bus. I'll turn it up too so it's even volume wise. And then with it. So you can hear what that does, you know, it just gives it that more like kind of, you know, big, blown out, bassy sort of feel without getting too crunchy, you know. But also it just kind of helps to fill in that space between the bass and the kick. And yeah, then we have this 909 hi-hat. So this is pretty standard fare, just like a nice fat 909 hat. The one thing I will say is pitching it down really helps with the more sort of like lo-fi feel, because you get artifacts of pitching it, and also it just makes the sound a bit darker. A big thing about like quote-unquote like lo-fi sounds, and really like hi-hats in general with techno, is like you don't want that like bright sharp high end, because this hi-hat is really meant to be kind of like, you know, a foil to the kick, where like you get the kick, boom, and then you get the hi-hat like that. If you have the hi-hat be like too high, like I'll just pitch it up a bunch, you know, you can hear like it's not really an even like punch between the two, but when you keep it low, it makes that hi-hat a bit more punchy, so the balance between the kick and the hi-hat is a lot more even. And I just had this going through some drum bus also, which helps, you know, just makes it a bit punchier, a bit fatter, and a bit more aggressive. And then finally, we have this rave break down here, which sounds like this. So this is a rave breakbeat. I'll play you the original sample. So you can hear it's kind of like an amen break, which is a very common break used in a lot of old drum and bass and jungle and a lot of the music that's being referenced in a lot of these tracks. But then there's a little bit more to it. So that's what you want to aim for, is something like this. And if you want this one, link is at the top of the description. Just something that's unique, that has like that texture to it. You know, you don't want it to sound like, you know, you want it to still sound like it's like one of those sampled drum breaks from vinyl, but something with a little bit more like futuristic character to it. And then what I did is, you can hear I chopped it up. That, I got rid of that and just took this. So it's just like that, you know, very Tommy Holohan-esque. And then it really just comes down to the processing after that, because this is another one of those sounds that's really like, the sound is there, you know, it is like that break right out of the bat. It's not really much that we have to do to it, just some stuff to make it like kind of optimized in the track. So the first thing here is the drum bus, and you can see this is pretty heavy. I've got it on the hard setting, I have the transients turned up a lot, and then I also have the compressor turned on a little bit here. So I'll just show you the difference. Here's without the compressor. And then with it. So So yeah, you want this kind of compression that's gonna be pretty transparent. You know, it's not super clear that it's like over compressed because of the fact that we still have the transients coming through. You know, the drums are still hitting right. But then what it is gonna do is just kind of even out the volumes a bit so that everything is like, yeah, you're just getting that nice like blast of high end over top of the whole mix. And also a key to this is just turning down that trim knob. That can kind of help you control how much compression. If I just turn that all the way up, that is over compressed. But when we turn it down, it's just the right amount. And then we just have an EQ, which is just cutting out like the low end to make sure that there's nothing like rumbly that's gonna get in the way of the kick. And then we have a little high end boost, just to make it a bit sharper. And yeah. So that is it for the break, and that is also going to be it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video is available at the top of the description, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. Yeah, thank you so much to everybody who picks up these sample packs. Like I said, some on my Bandcamp, they're all just like $5. But it really helps to support me so I can keep bringing you guys new videos every single day throughout the weeks while we're all in lockdown here. And yeah, so thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.